Are you a family caregiver? Are you caregiving for someone who can no longer take care of themselves? Are you overwhelmed? This is Caregiver Solutions Info with Marcia Teele. Marcia will be hosting an hour of true stories and information, tips and updates of the latest research and necessary information in the caregiving field, focusing on you, the family caregiver. An Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert, Marcia has 15 years of hands-on experience at Arden Courts, a leader in assisted living dementia communities here in the U.S. Marcia covers everything you need to know as a family caregiver, especially if you care for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease or other related dementia or chronic illness. If you have a friend or relative that is also a family caregiver, call them now. They won't want to miss a minute. And let them know they can watch on caregiversolutions.info. And they can listen on WNN 1470 AM in South Florida or nationally on the iHeartRadio app. Now, sit back, relax, and learn from our host, Marcia Teele, as she brings information to you that may just be the caregiving solution you need.
And welcome, everyone, to Caregiver Solutions Info. Thank you for joining us today. Whether you're watching us live on caregiversolutions.info on your computer or listening to us on the local radio station, I'm so glad that you're here. This show is for caregivers and their families that are dealing with caregiving issues when it comes to dementia, Alzheimer's, and other cognitive impairments. Caregiving is not easy, and we want to provide this extra platform for caregivers to learn how they can better cope. Sometimes caregivers are isolated. Sometimes they can't leave their home for many reasons. Number one, they're taking care of the person. Number two, maybe they don't drive. And it's difficult for caregivers to get that information when they can't attend support group meetings or go to seminars that are provided around town. And this program was designed so that it adds an extra layer of education to the caregiver in the comfort of their own home or in their car to learn and to help them through their caregiving journey. So if you know someone that maybe needs this information, please share with them about caregiversolutions.info, and I'm sure they'll be glad that you did. So we are live from Boca Raton, Florida, and we want to hear from you. If you have a question about something that you hear on the show, if you have a comment, if there's a topic you'd like for us to discuss, please send me an email. That email address is delray@arden-courts.com. That's Delray, Delray, at Arden, ARDEN-courts, COURTS.com. So shoot me an email. We'll be happy to answer your question the next week on the air and help you in any way that we can. So today, I have a very interesting topic. People hear about Alzheimer's disease. A lot of people think Alzheimer's and older people are synonymous. In other words, only old people get Alzheimer's. And that's a big misconception. Do you realize that people in their even 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s can get Alzheimer's disease? It's not that common, although we're seeing it more and more lately as people are sharing now about early onset Alzheimer's. It's pretty scary when you think about it. And we're going to be talking about that topic today with someone who's been in the trenches, someone who knows exactly what life is like with a spouse who had early onset Alzheimer's disease. I want to preface this by saying I've already have permission from my guests. No topic is off limits. We might be touching on some very sensitive topics and issues, but I have full permission to do that. And this is so important because for caregivers to come and share their story and give that gift to others, to other people to learn from, for other caregivers to identify with, to understand that they're not alone. It's a beautiful gift, and I'm so appreciative of that. So that being said, I'd like to welcome here today with me Mr. Bill Carter. Hi, Bill.
Hey, Marcia.
Welcome.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having
I
me.
haven't seen you in a couple years. Been a few, 2-3 years, and you're looking well.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you so much for coming today to share your story. Like I said, I know that not only you're sharing, and it's not always easy, but it takes courage, and it takes courage to do what you did by caring for your wife, and it takes courage to share the story. And I want you to know how much it means not only to me to have you here, but for our audience, for them to hear your story, hear your journey. And I'm sure that today's program is going to help a lot of people.
Great. Well, thanks for having me. If it helps just one person, that's a great thing.
And that's what you said. That's what you said before. So let's talk about Linda. Linda, you were married to Linda for about 27 years, right?
Yes.
Okay. And from what I know about you and your history with Linda, you had like a fairy tale marriage, a fairy tale wedding, and life was good. And you got married, you bought a house together, you had a child together. And then all of a sudden, at what age?
Around 46, 45, 46.
45, 46
Yeah.
years old, your Linda was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease.
Mm-hmm.
Shocking. Shocking. Let's talk about before that diagnosis happened. You're going about your life, you worked full time, things were good. But then you must have started noticing some signs. Can you share with us what
Sure.
some of the first signs that you noticed and what you thought about it at the time?
Well, first of all, we had a pretty big warning sign earlier on. Her mom passed away from early onset Alzheimer's at around 60, and it was about a 9-10 year illness. So, there's a chance of that being hereditary, so we were always worried about that. And
Okay.
then her older brother was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's, and he died at 50. And right around that time, we were about 45 years old, we kind of hoped that, hey, it can't strike another member of this family. And then some of my family members noticed it before I did.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What did they
Just
notice?
little things, like getting ready for Thanksgiving dinner, having everybody over the house, and it's like, oh, well, where's this? Where's that? And that's pretty common, really. When you have a big event, you have everybody over.
Yeah, we
and it's
all
like, well,
do
where's
that.
the rolling pin, or where did I leave my car keys?
That's normal. That's normal.
Right. So some people came up, and some of the family members said, hey, I was just noticing Linda's misplacing stuff, and her short-term memory is at an issue. But I really think everybody had their antenna up anyway because we knew about her mom and her older brother.
Because of the history in the
Right,
family.
right.
And you're right, because, you don't have to have Alzheimer's in your family in order to get Alzheimer's, but the statistics show that if you do, your chances are much greater of
Right.
getting the disease if runs in your family.
Of course, and we learned that from her side of the family. So,
Yes.
not that I was in denial, but as long as everything was really good, it was a really slow onset. It's like the boiling frog syndrome. A frog put in a cold pot of water, it won't jump out as the temperature rises, but you throw it in a boiling pot of water, it'll jump right out. Well, for me, it was that frog going in that cold pot of water.
Because
it's
it's
very
slow,
slow
because you get
process.
used to it.
Absolutely.
You get used to the little
Yes.
things, the little.
And you're thinking, hey, maybe this will skip this person, and it won't affect us.
Right.
And no, those are little things in the busyness of life that you would just say, hey, just chalk it up to, hey, I forgot about that.
Right.
But things started building, and my job relocated me down to Central Florida, and I noticed some things where she was starting to get a little lost and wasn't able to follow directions as well. So
But
because
you
of the
moved into a new city, so
Yeah.
everybody gets lost driving around a new city.
Right. So made that career change, and she was able to navigate, and everything was fine. And then towards the end of that program, realized that job situation where I was in Central Florida. Realized that maybe I ought to get it checked out just because of those little things going on
Okay.
and the family history.
Right.
So we took her in for some tests, and it was this was around 46 years old, and it was more of the doctors were saying more about the family history than the tests, but the tests were borderline. So, we maybe put her on a mild Namenda or something, but there's no big issues right now. But so it was a kind of a soft diagnosis, if you will.
Okay, but
Yeah.
going back to Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
when she's losing things, and it's crazy at Thanksgiving, and everybody's all excited,
Right.
and there's a lot of people around, and it's easy to like, what did I do with this
Right.
and that? But was Linda a real organized person?
She was very organized.
She was very
Yeah,
organized.
yeah,
So even though that might be common for a lot of people to be scatterbrained when it comes to finding things in a rush, for Linda being such an organized person, it really was a clue because it was out of her character.
Right.
All right. So I wanted to make that clear because a lot of us do, kind of get scatterbrained and, we forget certain things. But when it was out of her character and the other family members saw that spoke to them that, aha, this is a red flag.
Yes.
And then when you move to a new city, obviously she's driving and getting lost, going places, which could be normal in a new city when you don't know where you're going.
But it was rare. It was kind of a rare occurrence. It was, and even the doctor said, "Hey, she's very functional, and it's still borderline whether this is going to strike or not,
All right.
and how soon and how bad." So another career opportunity came, and I moved to South Florida, down here, and was working out of Boca, and moved to Boynton Beach, and that's when it really hit.
Is that right?
That she really got lost, couldn't hardly make it, a mile away from the house, and would get lost. And that's when we had the big aha moment, went to Cleveland Clinic and met with the neurologist, and it was full-blown early onset Alzheimer's.
And that was at age 46.
That was probably 48 at that
48
time.
at that
So there was a
time.
couple years of
So you
real
had like
slow
what you call the
progression.
soft diagnosis, and
Yes.
then a little bit more symptoms and a little bit more tests involved,
Yes.
more blood work, more intervention with the neurologist,
Yes.
the specialist, and about 48 years old.
Yeah.
That must have been really devastating to get that hard diagnosis, that confirmation at that time. Linda was part of that. She was there participating in the discussions.
Absolutely.
Okay. So describe, your initial feelings, your thoughts, and then if you can, how did you see that Linda felt about that? Did she accept it knowing that her mother and her brother, had Alzheimer's already? She knew that by then, I guess.
Yes.
And, what was her attitude at that time? Did she feel that, oh no, now this is me? Or did she have that fighting spirit? Or how did you all even handle this initial diagnosis?
Sure. Well, Linda had a very gentle spirit about her anyway. So she was never one to say, "Hey, I'm going to attack this thing and solve it," or she would never, on the opposite end of the spectrum, say, "Hey, this is the end." It was just more of a gentle, very ladylike approach to everything in life, and so she just said, "We'll do whatever we need to do to move forward," and so we just moved forward and took it a day at a time.
Okay. When her mother had Alzheimer's, did her mother live close by enough so that you had a lot of contact with the mom to sort of have something to compare it to? Or did she live far away where you weren't in the day-to-day with the living arrangements?
Right. So we lived, for a portion of that, we were in about 3 hours away, and another portion of that disease, we were about 2 hours away. So I wouldn't say it was day to day, but Linda would go down for periods of time and help her dad out. And so I think she was fairly hands-on at times, but not over a period of number of years straight through.
Okay.
So she had a pretty good handle on what it was like and what her dad was going through and what that would be like as a patient, if you will, or a victim,
Yeah,
or a,
yeah.
well, I don't know how
Yeah,
you call that.
absolutely.
Someone stricken with that disease. So she had a real good handle on knowing how devastating it is. So I think that always worried her even before she was diagnosed. I think that was a fear of hers. So it was kind of, it was a real serious
I
situation.
bet that was
Yeah.
scary. I mean, I can just imagine knowing that, it's a possibility that it's going to happen to me, knowing what it's like, how it affects the family, how it affects the spouse, and then getting the diagnosis and still watching her mother, go through it, because Linda was, early, and, in the beginning, you are still functional to a point. She must have been just really scared. Did she
Yeah.
ever relay that to you, that she was scared?
Sure, on many occasions, yeah.
Yeah. That must have been really hard.
But you just gotta, you go to the professionals and you say, what can we do to slow this thing down? And there's no cure for it yet. And at that time there was even less of a vision of a cure, and there was just things to kind of moderate the effects, if maybe hopefully slow it down. But you just every day you just try to have fun and live life, and you just move forward.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's what everybody should do every day is,
Right.
have a full life. But now you throw that into the mix, and it's easier said than done, absolutely. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more with Bill Carter and learn more about early onset Alzheimer's. We'll be right back.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. Make First Choice your first choice for home health care. First Choice is state certified for Medicare-covered services such as medical treatment and rehabilitation. Qualified healthcare professionals come to your home and work closely with your doctor to build a care plan designed to get you back on your feet as soon as possible. Founded and operated by registered nurses, First Choice Home Health is dedicated to providing exceptional home health care. Their highly skilled medical professionals have the knowledge and ability to provide patients quality care. Call First Choice Home Health at 561-296-2770. That's 561-296-2770. And tell them you want them as your first choice. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
And welcome back to Caregiver Solutions Info. We're talking to Bill Carter. Bill's wife, Linda, was diagnosed at age 46 with early onset Alzheimer's disease. There was a family history, and it was something that, obviously they didn't want to happen, but suspected it could. Thank you, Bill, for being here. I know this is not easy to talk about, and I appreciate, you opening up to share with everyone. We talked about Linda. Tell me a little bit about Linda. What kind of person was she?
Oh, boy. Just a terrific lady, just a very kind, gentle person. Yeah.
I know that she had family around. She went to college, and she had a lot of college friends and sorority sisters.
Yeah, she had a great group of friends that, as some people do, meet in college and have a nice network all over the country, and really good group of
And she
ladies.
worked
Yes.
early in your marriage.
Oh
she
yeah,
had
she
jobs.
had a great career, and we met in college, obviously, and fell in love and got married. And
college sweethearts.
moved around the country, had 12 relocations.
Wow.
So she's quite a saint. So she really handled all the moves. And so she was a really good organizer and coordinator, and kind of a very soothing kind of style and personality.
Yes.
Very kind and
I
gentle.
actually had the pleasure of meeting Linda after she was diagnosed, but earlier on, before her disease took over too much, I saw that she was friendly and she social and she liked people.
Yes.
And I saw that in her. I identified with her. What is really devastating is the fact that by the time Linda was diagnosed, you all had a very young daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And she was about, 6 years old
Yes.
when Linda was diagnosed? That's unimaginable to not only have, a wife at early age gets Alzheimer's disease, but now you have a small child. And I can imagine the thoughts that went through not only your mind, but Linda's mind, knowing that this disease is progressive. It doesn't get better. It only gets worse. How did you tell your daughter, or did you tell her right away? And how did that conversation go?
Sure. No, I didn't tell her right away, and I didn't really tell anybody right away. We just kind of let things kind of take its natural course. So once things became, once we got the firm diagnosis, of course, some of the more, the close family kind of suspected what was going on. And because I was talking to them about our appointments and the meetings with the doctors and whatnot. And once we got back that firm, hey, it's progressing rapidly and it's the full deal. I called her dad and her family and my family, and we just kind of kept it within the family. But going back to my daughter, at that point, how does a 6 or 7 year old assimilate that, and what do they do with that? So for my approach was to make sure Linda was cared for, number one, and number two is make sure Emma has a great environment to be raised in. So we just kind of kept it as positive as,
and as
the
normal
front,
as possible.
The facade was, hey, everything's moving forward. In the background, I was always juggling between the full-time, job that I was traveling about 60-70% of the time, and going to the office, and then it was just stages, and it all is a blur now looking back. But to answer your specific question, I don't know when I really told Emma, but I know that she kind of figured it out that Mom was not, well. And then as things progressed and my daughter got older, I kind of gently over time said, here's what's going on. There's more of that of a approach.
And explain to her why Mommy
what's
is
going on.
forgetting things.
Right.
Why Mommy doesn't remember about certain things.
Because she knew things weren't normal, that, Mom couldn't go in and help in the third grade class like the other moms. And I had to come up with other carpooling and activity logistics and transportation. It was a whole different set
Linda
of
used to
circumstances.
participate
Oh,
in
yeah, she
that.
did everything.
Right.
I'd go out and do my thing at work, and she'd run the house and raise my daughter, and then we'd have dinner together at night. So everything got turned upside down, and so you just adjust and tweak your life. And but I think my daughter's what I think helped me keep my sanity through it all, because you're focused on that next generation.
Yes.
And so to keep that happy home and it kind of a normal pattern of life
As
is very
much as
important,
possible.
right? And then slowly integrate in, hey, I can't, the first stage was, getting the GPS family tracker on my wife's cell phone. So she would actually call me and said, hey, I'm at this intersection and I don't know which way to turn home. And I'd step out of a meeting at work and say, okay, I see where you are on my computer, on my smartphone, make a left, and I'd actually stay on the phone with her until she got home.
Oh, wow.
And that happened 2 or 3 days in a row, and I said, okay, no more driving.
Okay.
So, but I was always worried about that, and
wow. And
so
you know,
then I had to get a caregiver to provide transportation and meal prep and to help pick up my daughter from school, and when I decided to hire a caregiver, so there's a number of years that they didn't really tell the neighbors and whatnot, but everybody suspected what was going on.
now how do you know that they suspected? What?
I mean, you couldn't, because it wasn't normal. You know, Linda wasn't able to carry a conversation very, very far. It just, as things progressed, it was, luckily she was a very a sweet, I don't want to say patient, but she was a sweet
You're a sweet
person all the
and
way
it
through the
came
disease.
through, right?
And in all the reading that I did, that it can sometimes, that it can go opposite
Right.
direction.
Yes.
And that person can become very combative. But she didn't. She stayed sweet almost to the end.
Yeah,
and,
you're right. It can go either way. If you have a personality, it's either going to be more that way, through the disease, or like you
Right.
said, it can just do a complete turnaround and go the other way. And you
Right.
don't know which one you're going to get. So in that respect, you didn't have to deal with the aggression and the combativeness and the, Did Linda ever get angry?
Yeah, so this is over a course of a number of years. So I was able to keep her at home almost to the very end, and with a team of caregivers that I hired. I went to an agency one time. Most of it was through word of mouth, and the first one was through a neighbor's friend who was a physical therapist who knew Mildred, if I could say her name. But Mildred was one of our first, and she was the most consistent helper. But I probably had 8 different people in my home over those number of years.
Wow.
I don't want to count up the number of years, but so we kept Linda at home for those 4 years, I guess, up until that Sunday after Thanksgiving that you called and said that I needed that room, and that was a matter of weeks that until she passed. But so there was from telling people, including my daughter, it was a process, and it's I just always kind of followed my heart and said, when do I need to tell who, and how do I need to tell them, and kind of
what's
just
the purpose in telling them?
right,
except for maybe they're just curious.
Right. So it's it all just sorted itself out with a lot of anxiety, and because her family lived away and my family lived away, but luckily we had a lot of people that would come and visit, and she had a lot of sorority sisters that came to visit, and they're Chi Omegas. I got to tell them. So Marcia has the owl mug here for me, and I pointed out that owls for Alzheimer's, but it's also the symbol for the Chi Omega sorority.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yes. So you might remember from her memorial. What do we have? 30 of her sorority sisters came and celebrated Linda's life with us, and as you did. And but so it was a progression of talking to people, and just the interesting thing is because it is still a functioning person that can interact,
right?
And the depth of that interaction gets shallower over time,
right?
But Linda was always sweet and kind and nice, and so you just kind of communicate to people as you need to communicate.
Yeah. People are curious, and sometimes they're curious because they want to be there for you and they want to help you, and other times they're just curious because they just want to be nosy. And, you kind of find out who your friends are when something like this happens. You really do, because a lot of people that get diagnosed with Alzheimer's, their friends are there in the beginning, but, they find that they fade away. And I was going to ask you that question is, how did you find your friends? Did some of them fall by the wayside and others stuck really close, or,
That's a good question. And I saw this with her mom and then with her brother, how things kind of go. But to your way you set that question up, that maybe some people were just wanting to know more, but you use the word nosy. I won't say that. I had nobody like that. Nobody was just, trying to, see what it was about.
Okay.
Really, everybody had sincere
concern.
desire to reach out and to help and support and love us. But it's first of all such a foreign disease to people of that age group.
Correct.
It's the first reaction is shock.
Yes.
And it's, you're going through oh my God, you kidding me? How does that? Never heard of that before. Are you serious? How did it happen? And
right.
What's next?
So you found yourself educating people too about it,
and educating myself too,
right.
even though I learned about it earlier through her side of the family. It's still, it's kind of one of those things you kind of you learn just as much as you need to learn, and then
and
so
it's a process.
I learned by doing
right.
For a number of years. But anyway, the friends and family were there. But I think you'll find that everybody has their own ability to assimilate and understand what maybe that person's going through with the disease, and then what maybe that person's family's going through. Some people can't quite get their arms wrapped all the way around it,
right.
so they don't know how to
respond,
help beyond the first. Hey, we're going to come down and see Linda, and we had many folks like that, and then they just kind of, I didn't hear from them
faded
again,
out.
but. It was because they lived far away and they couldn't help, but always reached out.
And there's not a whole lot someone can
Right.
actually do anyway. So as long as you felt that you had their support, that was important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the key was there was, I would say hands down, really everybody that reached out, they all kind of kept in touch in different ways.
Okay. So you felt supported.
Felt loved and supported
Good.
by family and friends and
Good.
distant friends, and that was really important.
That's
that
really
really
important.
helped me.
Yes.
Because there was a point where Linda didn't know what was going on.
Right.
My daughter was too young to help her or not.
Right.
And so for me, that was really helpful.
Well, that's
for
good.
Sure.
That's good that
Yeah.
happened that way. You mentioned her name earlier.
Yeah.
Mildred Brown. She's on the telephone. Mildred, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Hi,
Bill.
Mildred. You can go ahead and say hi to Bill. I know you probably haven't talked to Bill, so say hi to Bill.
Hi, Bill. How are you?
Hey, sweetheart. How you doing, Mildred?
I'm doing good. So nice to see you.
It's so nice to hear your voice. But
so we wanted to bring Mildred on. Let me explain. Mildred is a caregiver, private duty caregiver that Bill luckily found, and he mentioned her before that Mildred came into your home and took care of Linda for about 3 years, I think Mildred said. Is that about right, Mildred?
Yep.
That's about right.
About 3 years. So, Mildred, thank you for calling in. I wanted to give you and Bill an opportunity to say hey to each other because I know you had a special bond and a special friendship through Linda. And, Mildred, you've been a caregiver for a very long time. You had your own caregiving business.
I did. And
you took care of a lot of people, and you still take care of a lot of people that have dementia. And I know a lot of them, though, were older. When we're talking about Alzheimer's and people that get sick that way, a lot of geriatrics, a lot of older people. So was Linda one of your first clients that you took care of that had early onset Alzheimer's?
Yes, she was. She was my first client that I ever took care of that had onset Alzheimer's. So that was a little different for me.
How was it different for you?
It was different in a sense of when you're taking care of people that are older, that really has Alzheimer's, it's the pace is different. You know what I mean? In other words, they can last for 10, 15 years or what have you. But a person with onset Alzheimer's the pace seems to go faster.
Right. So
and I find that to be what happened when I was taking care of Linda.
Okay. So what do you mean? Do you mean that you saw things changing more rapidly?
I did. I did see things changing more rapidly. For about the first year or 6 months to a year, when I first came and started taking care of Linda, she was able to assist me with everything. In other words, she was able to show me whatever I was doing, whether it was preparing a meal or picking up her daughter from school, which way to go and how to do this or that or what have you over time. But within 6 months to a year, you could see the change so quickly. Whereas
Right.
when a person, in an older person, Alzheimer's is just Alzheimer's what it is, so it doesn't make any difference.
You don't
in
see
a
the
sense.
rapid progression in someone
No,
that's
you don't.
older. Right.
No.
Right.
So
So
that
you-
was my experience with her.
Right. So did you feel that you could keep up with it? You had to always be on your toes and you had to figure out like how to respond to her when she was changing?
Yes, well, I must say that her daughter Emma was a great help to me because who knows her mother better? You know what I mean? So she was able to help me to understand what, if I didn't understand what she was trying to tell me or whatever, Emma would, if that's okay to say Emma. But she was able to help me with her. You know, like if she was trying to tell me something or explain something to me and I didn't understand, Emma would always know. So that was a great deal of help that Emma did for me.
Right, especially in the beginning when things were changing. But I'm sure over time, and you were there about 3 years, over time you got to read Linda better.
Yeah, I did. I really got to read her better and understand her better. And then I knew, even if she gave just a clue word, I understood everything that she needed me to do for her.
Yes. And Mildred, I just have to say, I want to thank you because it was through you, actually, that I first got to meet Linda. And you were so instrumental in Linda as she progressed with the disease to keep her, to keep her involved and to keep her moving through the disease, which nobody can stop, but you helped her to be graceful. That's the only thing I can describe it, and I'm going to cry, I think. But
I know, and I'm glad that I was able to do that for not only her, but also for Bill and for Linda. What a wonderful family they are.
Right,
Bill,
and they
I have
are
to
a
tell you
wonderful
that.
family. And
Yes, they are.
you introduced me to Bill and then to Linda, and I was able to meet Linda, and we, the three of us, you and Linda and I, would go to lunch occasionally, and with Bill's
Right.
blessing. And I felt that I identified with Linda the first time that you brought her to meet me. And she was sitting in the car, and you said, "Come out, I want you to meet her." And Linda was about 51, 52 at the time. And it turned out that when I met Linda, I actually looked into her eyes and I saw myself. And I felt like I was looking into a mirror because Linda was taller and I'm tall, and she was fair-skinned and fair-haired and just like me. And I looked at her and she looked at me, and we didn't say a whole lot right then at that first meeting, but our eyes did. And our eyes talked to each other. And I just knew that I was going to be her friend for as long as I could. And
you were.
And she did. She was my friend, and I felt that she knew I was her friend. And we would go to lunch occasionally, and it was a wonderful experience to be able to be part of that life, and to keep quality of life. And you did it so well. I know Bill was very grateful for that, and thank you, Bill, for allowing that.
Can I jump in here?
Sure.
So, Mildred, first of all, I just want to say
Sure.
we love you. I love you. Thank you so much for giving your heart and soul to me and my family. So thank you very much.
You're quite welcome, and it was such a pleasure to do just that.
And what I think Mildred's failing to say, yet maybe she might want to get into this or not, she had another patient that she was caregiving for, and that was me.
Okay.
Mildred,
Bill, thank
because
you for that. I appreciate it.
I'd always pepper her with a million questions, almost like she was, because, you meet with doctors and you meet with different people and you're always trying to see what else you could learn. But I would always have a million questions for Mildred. And Mildred would always be so patient with me and try to break it down in layman's terms about what's going on. And so many times I asked you to help me project what was going to happen and when, and you would just put your arm around me and say, Bill, just keep moving on, just take it day by day, and we're here, and we'll figure it out. And that's what she helped us do.
And she helped you to
Oh,
show
gosh.
Mildred, you are an angel.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Bill. I appreciate it.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Mildred, for calling in. I know you would have been here today, but you're actually caregiving for someone else right now. So I appreciate the call in. I'm glad you and Bill got to talk.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right.
Take care, Bill.
Bye, Mildred. Hope to see you soon.
We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Do you need the advice of an elder law attorney, but perhaps find it difficult or overwhelming getting to appointments? The solution is the Elder Law Department. They bring elder law to you by meeting with you in the comfort of your own surroundings to discuss your personal situation and family needs. In practice since 1994, Heidi Friedman is a member of the Elder Law section of the Florida Bar. She and her team help families with issues that include incapacity and estate planning, asset preservation, veterans benefits, and other legal issues that seniors may face. Call the Elder Law Department at 954-383-1143. 954-383-1143. They bring elder law to you. Make First Choice your first choice for home health care. First Choice is state certified for Medicare covered services such as medical treatment and rehabilitation. Qualified healthcare professionals come to your home and work closely with your doctor to build a care plan designed to get you back on your feet as soon as possible. Founded and operated by registered nurses, First Choice Home Health is dedicated to providing exceptional home health care. Their highly skilled medical professionals have the knowledge and ability to provide patients quality care. Call First Choice Home Health at 561-296-2770. That's 561-296-2770. And tell them you want them as your first choice. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on CareGiverSolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
I'd like to thank our local sponsors and also our national sponsor, Arden Court's Memory Care Community. Arden Courts is a leader in memory care, people with Alzheimer's and other related dementia. They have over 50 locations across the United States. And Arden Courts is there for the caregiver as well as for the person with the disease. And as such, they would like to offer you a free caregiving book. This is called the 36-Hour Day Book. It's in its 5th edition by Dr. Peter Rabins, and it is an awesome book about caregiving. If you're looking to learn more and you want to know about caregiving, about dementia, this is the book for you. If you don't have it, Arden Courts would be very happy to send it to you. All you have to do is call them on their toll-free number. That number is 888-478-2410. 888-478-2410. Call them up. Tell them that you heard about the offer on the Caregiver Solutions Info Show. They will get your information and mail you this book, Compliments of Arden Courts. So we're back with Bill Carter talking about early onset Alzheimer's. His wife, Linda, was 46 when she was first diagnosed. And Bill, thank you again for sharing all of this. It really does help other people to understand, and people that may be going through this or know other people that are going through this. I have a question that it's tough to ask, but what was your greatest fear during this time?
I had a lot of fears during this time.
Okay.
I don't think there was a greatest one. I think it was just, first of all, making sure Linda had the best possible care and was, safe and comfortable, right? And that we were doing everything we could to either stop or slow down, but in the meantime, a safe, comfortable environment.
Okay.
And then really keeping a close handle on how she's progressing with the dynamic of our decision to keep her in the home for as long as humanly possible, and having 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old daughter growing up in the same household, and so just managing that, and this is the fear of the unknown, I guess. As much as you can read about it and talk to other people, your end of the day, the spouse caregiver or the sister or the uncle or whoever's the closest family member that's really the primary caregiver, it's really intense. It's scary.
Yes, it is scary.
So you
day by
find,
day, you don't know what's going to happen.
whether it's dressing or bathrooming or feeding, before the caregiver could come, it's financially how you're going to pay for all this stuff. It's really, really intimidating and scary.
Right.
So you just got to kind of take it a little step at a time and just try to get through it.
And get help.
And so many days it was just, how do I get through today?
Right.
Between
and
my
how
work
did you?
and
How did you
I don't
cope?
know.
Was there anything that you did that you thought, if I didn't do this, I wouldn't have been able to make it? Or did you have any one mechanism to cope? Or was it just a combination of things that you did to help yourself and your daughter cope?
I think it was a variety of things, but I think the most important thing was that I had my little sister really stepped up, and a couple of really close friends, and they were really there for me. So I knew I had that emergency safety net.
Right.
That if I really cracked it, at midnight I could pick up the phone and call and talk it out with somebody.
Right.
So I knew I had a really close core support team. The end of the day, it's just you. So you're got this super long day between work and raising a daughter, and then you finally get Linda to bed, and then you're laying in bed at midnight looking at the ceiling with your spouse in bed with you, and you're just saying, what's tomorrow going to hold?
Right.
And it's scary.
It is
really
scary.
was. So there's a lot of sleepless nights.
Right.
And you just got through it one day at a time, and just keep saying what, I'd want to treat her the way I'd want to be treated, and you just keep filtering everything through that.
Right. And I know you said several times tonight that you wanted to keep her home as long as possible. However, there did come a time when Linda did leave the home to go into a dementia-assisted living. And what were the circumstances that made that change?
Yeah, so there was a couple things. One, the first kind of filter that I wanted to make sure that we did is that if she ever got to the point of getting angry or acting out, I never wanted my daughter to see that. So those occurrences happened late at night, around midnight, where she'd just sit up out of bed, turn all the lights on, and stomp around the room, and I don't want to say yell at me, but just, who are you and what are you doing here? And she didn't know who I was, and that's when I started realizing, hey, this is beyond my capability at this point. And then there was that was probably one set of circumstances where that's when I got on the waiting list right away to go into Arden Court. And then the other thing was she had a couple seizures and in the middle of the night, and so we had to resuscitate her and call 911. And if I had not been there, if I was sleeping out on the couch or something, I could have lost her at one of those times. So that's when we said, hey, it's beyond my capability now. And
it just got too much.
Yeah,
and were the seizures related to the dementia, or was it some other condition she had?
No, she had no other condition, so it was definitely related to the brain deteriorating.
Yeah.
Which was one of the conditions the neurologist said that we would could expect. And
So he prepared you for
it
that
just,
possibility.
out of the blue, the first one was a major one.
Wow.
Almost took her life. And
wow.
Yeah.
And we all, we can't imagine, living our life with Alzheimer's, and no one ever expects it. And when you're in the throes of it, it is scary, and it's overwhelming, and it's just something that you never even have a possibility that this would ever happen, to anyone. So the more that we learn, the better we're prepared, and as much as one could be prepared. But Alzheimer's disease affects 50% of people over age 85. Okay, so you can expect, okay, that sounds reasonable because they're 85, but half of people over 85 are going to have dementia. And when you're talking about someone in their 40s, it's not that common. But the difference is sort of what Mildred alluded to a few minutes ago when we were speaking to her, is that people that have early onset dementia, that their Alzheimer's, okay, it actually is, Alzheimer's. Now, dementia is the symptoms and Alzheimer's is the actual disease, and for people not to be confused, but there's lots of different things that can cause dementia, but Alzheimer's is the most prevalent. But the early onset at a very early age, when that happens to someone, the disease progresses much faster, much quicker. So a person that gets Alzheimer's disease, once they're diagnosed, they've already had it before they were diagnosed, and it can last 2 to 20 years. But someone who gets it early is not going to be on the 10, 12, 20-year end of the line. They're going to be in the first year. So from the time Linda was diagnosed until she passed away about 3 years ago, I think.
Yep. So about 6, 7 years,
about
probably.
six or 7 years was the length of that journey. Yeah. So that's one thing that a lot of people don't realize is when it's first onset, it does rapidly fire.
But that does vary by person. It can be 10 years or so, but Linda's was pretty quick.
Right, and the fact that Linda's brother passed away of Alzheimer's and her mother passed away of Alzheimer's, and it was in her family and more familiar that way.
And her other brother passed away just this year.
I'm sorry. I met him.
Yes, Bob.
Yeah,
so,
I'm sorry for that too.
So we lost him.
It's devastating. You think about Linda's father. Here he had a wife and 3 children, and his whole family was wiped out from Alzheimer's disease. His wife and 3 children. I mean, how is he doing? Is he okay?
Stu's doing great. We love you, Stu. It's tough. It's brutal.
Yeah.
I don't walk in his shoes, but it's got to be just devastating.
Yeah.
And,
I'm so sorry for that. For the family. So getting back to coping, no one can tell you how to cope. You have to find your own way. Whether it's some people are, out there and they like to talk about it, and others deal with it in different ways. Some people go to support groups. Others don't find that that's what they want to do. And so I think, though, just being aware and having awareness and learning and getting the help and not being afraid to ask for help. And you certainly, had your support group, around you, your support network around you. And then you found Arden Courts for Linda. And I remember when, she came in, and I spent time with Linda. And I really felt that if Linda hadn't gotten Alzheimer's disease and I had known her, when she was well, that I could have been best friends with her. I really felt that. I had a connection. And so what had happened was, once Linda actually came into Arden Courts, she was at the very end of the progression, and it went very quickly, and it was very sad. And I just have to share this part of it because, again, I identified with her, and I felt that she mirrored me as far as, we had some kind of a connection. And when I got the call, it was in the evening, and it was in January, after Christmas, right after Christmas. Right. And I got the call at home that Linda had passed away. And I get the calls, but this one was different. And I was extra touched and extra sad, and I felt that I was at a loss how I wanted to cope with this, because I really had this connection with her. And I was making dinner, and on the counter was a red candle that was left over from Christmas. And I wanted to do something. I wanted to do something for Linda. I wanted to do something for you, but there's nothing I could do. So I took that red candle and I decided to light it. And I know a lot of people light candles for loved ones. I never had done that before. But I lit this candle and I put it into the family room. And as I watched TV that evening, I was watching the glow of the candle. And what became out of that was a poem that came in my head that night that I went to bed. and it was the start of a poem which I wrote about Linda, and I'd like to read it to everyone with your permission.
That would be wonderful.
Okay, so it's called Wonder Woman because Linda's married to Bill Carter, and her name was Linda Carter. And if you might recall, Linda Carter played Wonder Woman on TV. So this is entitled Wonder Woman, and this is a tribute, my tribute to Linda Carter. I lit a red candle today to see inside my soul, a light to honor you, to remember you, and all that you've been through. My heart recognized you instantly the first day that we met. Our eyes did most of the talking. Your inviting smile welcomed me in. A connection for a reason. A new friend I'll never forget. Strong yet flexible like the candle you stood, your bright light shining through. Your warm hugs gave comfort to you and to those whose voices were not understood. As the candle melts and the flicker of light is waning, not wanting to be seized, a soft glow surrounds you. The love is still there, triumphing over Alzheimer's disease. Your family and friends will miss all the wonderful parts of you. You gave each one a special gift by being who you are. Though we wonder why so soon, we are only human. You're in our hearts, close, not far. To me, Linda Carter really was a Wonder Woman. And that's my tribute to Linda because she was a Wonder Woman. She dealt with it through beauty and grace, and you dealt with it through beauty and grace. And I just want to say again, I'm sorry for your loss. I know you're back on track, and life must go on, and Emma's doing well, and you're doing well, and that's a good thing. And I want to thank you, Bill, for coming and sharing with us and being here and helping people understand what it's like, and that the fact that Alzheimer's can strike anyone at any time, and there's no rhyme or reason for it, but we all deal with it, and we're all in this together.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. So we'll be back next week, same time, same place. In the meantime, don't forget, give someone a hug. They need it, and so do you. See you next time.
Thanks for joining us for this week's Caregiver Solutions with Marcia Teele. Join us next week as Marcia, who has 15 years of Alzheimer's disease and dementia care experience, brings you more needed information to help with the care of your loved one. This show can be seen again on caregiversolutions.info, and questions can be left on the site, which may be used on the program to help others. See you next week for more Caregiver Solutions.